Welcome to StockInvest.us podcast. We remind you that trading involves a high risk of losing money, and that you should speak with a financial advisor before buying or selling any securities. You should not base your investment decision upon StockInvest.us. By using the information provided, you agree and are held liable for your own investment decisions.
Hi, welcome to StockInvest.us podcast for week 46. My name is Jim. I'm one of the co-founders of StockInvest.us and also a technical analyst. In these podcasts, which we release every single Monday before market opens, we'll look at the week ahead of us. What can we expect from the markets? We'll look at some of the major stocks, give you the trading tips of the week, and by the end of the podcast, we will look into my high-risk portfolio. And what did we say last week? Well, I said, for instance, that I thought Tesla would fall all the way to 1,000, bounce up, and end the week at $1,050. What did Tesla do? Tesla fell, ending the week at $1,033. So we were very close to the actual price target for Tesla last week. However, I also said that I believed Microsoft would end at $312, ending the week at $336, much stronger than I anticipated. We will get back to the major companies. We'll even have a look at the trading tips. Last week I told you I would try UK again and told you it would be a high risk attempt. So did I buy UK again? Yes, I bought UK again on the morning. I was able to get in at $9.4. Was it a good trade? We will also get back to that shortly. Just ahead of us, we will look at the week coming up. Last week I told you I believed Nasdaq would end red, that it would be a red week. And looking at the numbers, Nasdaq ended at 15,861 points, down 110 points or 0.69. So it was a red week also for Dow Jones, ending down 0.63 or just above 36,100 to be exact, was the closing price for Dow Jones on Friday. So what will happen this week? Well, that will be what is coming up. Last week we expected a red week. And it was a red week, as I just said. Nasdaq fell and also Dow Jones fell, but it didn't fall very much. So what will happen this week? Well, as usual, we'll just look at a few fundamental things before we look at the actual chart. And what is it that we can expect this week? Well, on Tuesday, you will get the retail sales numbers, and these will give you an idea about the consumer spending, which is very interesting. As you know, if you follow my podcast, inflation is here and it's just growing wild. Very interestingly, Michigan University did a survey among consumers, and the consumers only thought or expected that the prices will increase by 5% this year. In fact, they're already at 6.2% and growing at even faster pace. So there is this divergence between what consumers believe and what is actually happening. And at some point that will catch up and we will get the first ID through the consumer spending results. This will also be followed up by the Walmart numbers, which will be released before market opens tomorrow. And you should pay attention to this because they will give you these indications. And what happens if the consumer spendings go down? Well, that will affect businesses over a long time. So these are the things that you really should keep an eye on. As I told you last week, I believe gold will just continue up. I have this target for $2,000 for gold by the end of the year, and it's currently at $1,862, up $45 last week, and I just think it will continue simply because money will go where it's more safe. And I believe gold in this situation, which we are in right now, we might end up with stagflation, that this is the place where money will flow. And currently I'm being right. Money are, as we speak, going into gold, and I think it will just continue. That being said, I also said that by the next 12 months, I expect gold to hit as high as 2,500. So I see a huge upside in gold. What are the other things that we can look for in terms of inflation expectations? We know that inflation is the hardest thing that can hit the stock markets. If interest rates go up, and usually that's the way that you fight inflation, money will flow into bank and fixed interest rates. And the 10-year Treasury yield went up by 0.13 last week, ending at 158, but it's still very low. And every time we think it will go up, it has a tendency to go down. How will all this be? Well, right now we are boiling hot, I would say. If you look at any chart, you can see so many stocks being overbought, Microsoft being totally overbought, markets being overbought. At some point, this thing will, as I said repeatedly, crash. But exactly when will it be? And I told you, you have to look for different triggers. And I personally think right now, after checking a lot of news last week, that it might be Ukraine that actually can trigger huge market falls. As we know, the Russians are building up along the border of Ukraine. And Belarus and Poland is in a conflict right now about migrants. And I think this is the one thing that can escalate things into a situation that will scare the market. And I think it will be, since the markets already are very high, the one thing that can trigger huge falls. The other problem is, of course, that the markets can just continue upwards. When things are overbought, they can just continue upwards. There is nothing that can stop Nasdaq, for instance, to go to 20,000 points. Many have said that before. It's impossible to get to 15,000. Well, Nasdaq went to 15,000. Now it's flirting with 16,000 points. Of course, it can go to 20,000 points. You cannot really decide exactly when things will happen. But for the week as such, from a fundamental point of view, the expectations for, they expect a little bit less consumer spendings this week. So there are things indicating that it should be a slow week. But as I said, there can be this one international trigger, and I think it can be Ukraine. Oil going down is very good. That is good because oil is used in so many products. So if oil is high, of course, inflation also will be high. It's used in absolutely more or less everything you use during the day. Oil is somehow a part of it. And oil falling down to 80 is somewhat good news for consumers, of course. Will it continue downwards? Well, I believe, as I said before, said that when oil was 20, I believe it will go to 40, later to 60, and it will peak at 100 before Christmas. Right now, to be honest, the only way that oil can peak to 100 is if there will be a major conflict that will push oil up to 100. That also, if you have listened to all my podcasts, that was exactly what I said so long ago, that there might be, in my opinion, a huge conflict in 2021, pushing oil up to $100. But from the fundamental perspective, as I see it, there is really no reason why markets should fall very much this week, unless we get this conflict. Now, if we go to the charts and look at the charts, I love charts. We can see that the Nasdaq, you can do this yourself. Go to StockInvest.us, type in the ticker Exig, or just write Nasdaq, and it will give you the choice. And you can see exactly what I see, and that will give you a better understanding of what I mean. Nasdaq is within a slow rising trend, currently being at the top of the trend. It was topping at 15,982, fell back last week as we expected. It was kind of obvious being that overbought. Bounced off the support at 15,600, now it's moving up to 15,800 plus, but between 15,800 and 16,000 it meets a lot of resistance. Relative strength index is still very high, it's 73, so it's really high despite found a bottom at 65. It's very high. In these situations, we know that it is flirting with the top of the trend. Usually, I would say that it should go to the middle of the trend, find enough strength, momentum, support before moving up, which will be a good sign. When I see situations like this, where it's pushed to the top of the trend, fall a little bit back, but only a little bit, then bounce up, it either breaks very fast, very hard, and leaving such good result, could be a single stock, whatever. But in many cases, you will see double top, which really is the huge indication that the forthcoming fall is upon us. So then I try to look at the volume. Is there more to go on the volume? Can the volume be higher? The interest volume is interest. Can the interest be higher in the markets? Right now, the volume is moving along with Nasdaq. We like that. We want that. We want for any stock, we want the price and the volume to follow the price. That's the one thing that we want. So from this perspective, there is room for the volume to increase a little bit, and also for the price, Nasdaq price, to increase a little bit. At the same time, it's so close that I think the following scenario is most likely. The index bounced up the last few days, it fell the first few days of last week, then went up the last few days of the week. I think that we might see today that the Nasdaq will continue upwards, but for the rest of the week, it will be red. Either that, or we have a strong opening which fade away and slowly go into the red. I personally believe, from what I see, that the resistance around 16,000 will be too high. There is not enough space right now to move above this limit. Then something very, very special has to happen. From a technical point of view, the highest possibility is that it will fall. Could be a one day up, then fall for the rest of the week. Find supports at 15,600, late in 15,400. We have to try to find somewhat exactly where we think things will be. And I think personally that we at least will see a fall to 15,600, maybe as low as 15,400. And then we will see there is major support at 15,200, how things will be. So how do you align this with the fundamentals? Well, we know that today there will be no special numbers coming out, but tomorrow will be some numbers coming out. I think they might be a little bit disappointing enough to push Nasdaq down. So I think these two things will just align perfectly. And not too scary one, but the pressure is building up, and there might be some Ukraine news during the middle of the week, in my opinion. We'll just keep an eye on it, see, because these things can really push the market fast downwards. Should it happen, it will find support at 15,200, 15,000, later 14,600. Anything that goes up can also go down. Keep that in mind. So for the week as such, this will be the second week where I expect markets to be red. So that's the final conclusion. It will be a red week ahead of us again. But let us look at a few of the major companies and see if these tell the same story. As usual, we'll look at Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Bitcoin and Dogecoin. And last week I told you I believed that Apple would end the week at $145. Apple actually ending at $149.99. So it was a little bit above my target. And if you look at Apple chart, again, I'll just recommend you to do the same thing. Go to our page or whatever page that you like that presents a good chart. Type in the ticker Apple and you can see for yourself. And what do we see? We can see that Apple is struggling to go above $156, which is previously high. For the last few weeks, it's been moving sideways between $147 and $152. And the same thing is expected for this week. The good thing, if there's anything good, the relative strength index turned down last Wednesday and found the bottom at 45, moving upwards. The volume is following the stock somewhat, which, as again, is a good sign. But huge resistance from 150 to 152, later 154 and 156. Will make the journey upwards tougher. So again, we see the same thing like we saw in the Nasdaq chart. There is a huge chance that the stock will push upwards for the beginning of the week, then fall back and move within this formation between 147 and 152. If it managed to break above or below any of these limits, you should see a minimum $5 gap coming up. So if it moves above 152, you can expect it to move up towards all-time high 156, 157. If it breaks down below 147, you can expect it to fall down to 142, which also is a support level. So what will the actual be? Well, I think the movement will be sideways this week, and I believe that the very low will be 146 and the very high 152, and that it will end the week somewhere, in my opinion, around $146. That will be $1 up from last week's targets, which is not so bad. Let's jump straight to Microsoft and looking at Microsoft. Microsoft had a very good week last week indeed. Fell, but got back to the same level. 2 weeks ago it ended at 336 and last week it ended at 336. So it was just a turn down and then a turn up. But if we look at Microsoft, it's such an overbought stock. It's in the top of the trend, exactly like Nasdaq, just a bit stronger trend. And how should we be able to push above? Well, I've seen this before. When things are overbought, they can just continue. There seems to be no logic and the fall will just be harder. There is no reason why, because right now Microsoft is again testing all-time high. Why it shouldn't go to 350. So I find that likable, that during intraday trading or something, we can see Microsoft all the way to 350. But I do not understand how this should be viable. There is nothing in the volume saying that this should sustain over the week. So I think it will be good start, then a fall. If the fall back, there will be support at 330, 320, 320. Last week I had a target of 312. And when things and if things go south, I think actually that it will bounce up from 320, then maybe all the way up to 330, but then again fall further. So I've been negative for Microsoft, saying now, let's see, it will be 3 weeks now. I've been saying 312 as target, and I will actually keep this target simply because it's such overbought that when we see someone start offloading shares, I think that it will be enough to push Nasdaq down, Microsoft down, actually 10%. If you are a Microsoft holder and you wonder why I'm so negative, it's just because it is in the upper part of the trend. If you look at the long-term picture, everything is still looking very, very good. It's just a very short-term picture that I'm speaking about. High chance that it will have a reaction down to 320 and then push upwards again. I just choose, based on my experience, to be a little bit more negative. If you don't have the stock and you're thinking, should I buy Microsoft? Well, as I said, if it breaks 336, it can just push up to 350. It's a high chance actually that it will push up to 350. So you can do it as a trade. I would suggest to wait to make sure that 336 is properly broken. That it moves a little bit into 337 before doing it. And if you are a Microsoft shareholder and you wonder why should I now sell because he says 312, well, what you should do is run a stop loss, because if it continues up, you don't want to be out. And if it goes down, of course, you don't want to lose that much money. And as we said through all these podcasts, the game is increase your gains, reduce your losses. Putting a trailing stop loss on the stock will just help you be following the stock upwards. And if and when it falls, well, it can, that stop loss will help you reduce your losses. You will be out. If you look at the volatility, how much do Microsoft go up and down during the day? It's actually not very much. Over the last week, it was 1.13% during a day. So it's really not huge volatility in Microsoft compared to other stocks. This may, of course, change depending on the market. So where will you put your stop loss? That will be up to you, how much profit you have, your risk tolerance, but it should be enough to handle at least a day. And that will be, let's say, 5% could give you that tolerance level. Usually, I would say that you put the stop loss based on volatility of the week expectations and, of course, your tolerance. Because if you have plenty of profit in Microsoft, you can stand some risk. And if you have less profit, of course, you want to cut your losses. Up for the first part of the week, then down. We hold a very, very low target, 312. Hopefully, I will be wrong. And you will be right. It will just continue upwards. We will see. But check out the chart. You can see for yourself. It's colored with red. That means that the relative strength index is overbought. And I never ever seen Microsoft behave like this. As long as this is more classic pattern for penny stocks or stocks which is driven by different things. So there is a huge belief in Microsoft. And what about Tesla? Last week I told you I believe Tesla would end the week at 1,050, fall all the way to 1,000, bounce up, and at 1,050, ending at 1,033. So we was close on the Tesla call this week. And again, for those of you who follow me, you know I bought Tesla 560. I expected Tesla to go to 8,900. That's where I said I would start plan my sell. Ever since 900, I've been running a closer stop loss, trailing stop loss. The stop loss is just following the stock upwards. It never goes downwards. And that turned out so good because Tesla ended very high 2 weeks ago. And when it started falling last week, my stop loss was cut, so I am out of Tesla. And as I told you, I will not buy anytime soon. I will wait for a good place to be. There is a huge chance that it might bounce up from 1,000 and just continue upwards. While I believe actually that it will be 700-800, which will be more better pickup point in my. But my trade is off 560, sold at 1198. Such a nice ride in Tesla. And hopefully it will be one more opportunity. The reason it fell last week was, of course, that Elon Musk sold its shares. But if you look at it, it was way overbought before he sold. And as I wrote in the description of the podcast, is Elon Musk a genius? Well, I think Elon Musk really is. He understood that Tesla was at a very high level, a good time to sell. So he had a tweet where he had people vote if he should sell or not. And if I'm not mistaken, he sold for $7 billion in Tesla last week. But what will happen now? Well, the volume fell with the stock. It's a good thing bouncing a little bit up again when the price hit 1,000. And 1,000 is a psychological level. If it's broken, there is no doubt in my mind that if 1,000 is broken, it will fall all the way to 900 in one straight go. There is no reason why it should stop. There is no support from these levels either. It moved rapidly up from 900 to 1,000. Trading some more around 1,000, so there will be a gap downwards if it's broken. Relative strength index is falling as it should along with the stock. That's somewhat a good sign, but where will it pick up? Last time it actually picked up at these levels. RSI is now 51. Back in August it picked up at 41, later at 50. Will it be the same thing now? Well, I think it will fall lower than that before it turns. So I will be negative one more week for Tesla, then we will see. Because I think, in my opinion, Tesla would end the week at 880. So I again reduce my target for Tesla. And we will see. And as you can see, I was negative to, I expect fall in Apple, I expect fall in Microsoft, and I expect fall in Tesla. And all of these are major companies. And that just reflects my view of Nasdaq, the New York Stock Exchange, and the week ahead of us. Red markets is what I expect, and I see the same tendency in all these big stocks. Next week, we will for sure see if I was right or wrong, as we do every single week. And what about Bitcoin? Well, last week I said Bitcoin was, in my opinion, heading for $75,000, but it didn't. It ended Friday. We always use Friday's prices. It ended at 64,000, so I was off with Bitcoin target. But if you look at the Bitcoin chart, it is very good. I like what I see, and I believe that it will push upwards to 75,000. As you know, I started being extremely positive when Bitcoin fell to 30,000, said that was a super pickup point. Getting to the very upper part of the trend, didn't have enough momentum to go straight to 75,000 last week, increases the chances that it will be a little bit slower movement forwards. It will just be a wild guess, but the relative strength index is still moving upwards. The volume fell along with the crypto when it fell from 68, I think it was high last week, all the way down to some 64, bouncing up, and is currently trading at 65. I think that it will push upwards. I'm not sure if it will hit 75 before it will take a natural swing down towards the 65,000 support. So I'm not sure if I should be bold enough to put 75,000 as a target, since I was wrong last week. I'm very certain that it will hit 75,000. Will it do it next week? Being in the upper part of the trend, there is always this huge chance that it will have to move a little bit sideways before again pushing upwards. So having a $75,000 target last week, I think I will reduce it a little bit and keep it 70,000 by Friday. That we will see Bitcoin hit 70,000. If you ask me in general, I am positive to Bitcoin. I think it will just continue upwards. And as I said, if markets turn a little red, I think crypto actually might do a little bit better. Looking at the charts, it seems to me to have a little bit better potential, meaning that it will either go sideways slightly up, or for sure not fall as much as the market. And that brings us to the Dogecoin. And looking at Dogecoin, same kind of movement like Bitcoin, slowly, but it's moving upwards. Coming from a very low RSI position tells me that it will head upwards to 30. Last time I mentioned 30, I said that any level above 30 was probably a good selling point, because it could fall back to 27. Now I will say that when it breaks 30, it should move up to 34 cents. There is nothing in the chart indicating that it will happen this week. If anything, I would say it will move upwards to 30 cents. So there has to be something pushing the crypto a little bit faster. If it should break up through 30, go to 34 for the week. So we will have a moderate target for Dogecoin this week at 30 cents. And that was the major stocks. In the very last part, we will now look at the trading tips. As I told you, I planned to buy Exigam last week after many good gains for the trading tips. How did Exigam go? Well, you will know shortly. And then we are at the very end of this podcast, where we'll look at some trading tips for the week and, of course, my high-risk portfolio. And over this last 9 weeks, we've been having 9 positive trades. We have had a loss in 5, and 1 was sold at the same as it was bought on. In average, we've been doing very good. The average return on the positive tips is 11.3%, while the average for the sells is 3.88. So the stocks which we had a loss on were sold with a 3.88% average loss or gains. 11 plus percent gain average. And that's exactly, just to repeat that, that's exactly what you want. Reduce your losses and just keep your gains. 2 weeks ago, it was Under Armour giving us 14.7%, and I told you last week on Monday that I would try Exigam, a high risk trade, believing that it would turn between 9 and 10 and push upwards. So Monday started, and I was able to get Exigam at 9.40 and thought, okay, this will be a good trade. I will have that bounce up. I was not sure where it will be, to 10, 11, 12, or 13. I was hoping to see possible gain of 30% from rebounds. Remembering Exigam was up at 17. then fell all the way back. And again, if you follow my portfolio, you know that Okuggen was in my high risk portfolio and it was sold at $17.1, giving 96% profit for the high risk portfolio. So that was a super trade. Was I able to replicate it? Well, as I said, I bought Okuggen 940, but having a somewhat okay start. It fell ending the week at 882. So it's down 6.2% as we speak, but I keep Okuggen. As I told you, this is a high risk stock, so I keep a very wide stop loss. See some issues as we head into the week, because I expect a red week, and I'm not sure that Okuggen will be able to push upwards. So it might be that it will be out today. I have to see. Looking at the chart, we can tell that it currently has a sell signals from the short-term moving average, the long-term moving average. But if, and I repeat again, if it managed to break above 9, push upwards for the day, these things will turn into buy signals. There is really nothing in the chart indicating that I will get my will. The volume fell on the end of last week while the stock was ticking a little bit upwards. But we want to see the volume go up and not down. That indicates that it most likely should move sideways and may even fall. So there's a high chance that this trade will go, as we say, go south. Looking at the chart, you can say that it's the bottom of the trend and it's usually a place where it pushes upwards. So it'll be an exciting week. I keep the trade because I believe it will be able to push up, but not sure if it will be this week. And since I expect a red week, I will only give one other trading tips which I will try to buy, and that's Excel. And the reason I will try to buy Excel is, if you look at the chart, you can see that XLX had huge fall from $22 all the way down to $17.84. Then it bounced up, and it's doing that on very low RSI. RSI is 23, which is very low. It's oversold as we speak. It's bouncing up. The volume is also bouncing up, which is what I want to see. So I think there is a trading level at least 5% upwards to the 19, could be the 1950, giving some 7-8%. So that is what I will try to hunt for. I believe the risk is relatively low, so I like that risk reward ratio. Some support all the way from today's level doesn't indicate any real fast movements, so it could be a slow gain upwards. If it breaks 1850, it could be that it moves a little bit faster upwards to $19 plus. So that is what I will try. I believe it will be a red week, so I want a stock which I believe don't have too big downside potential, that it will hold a little against red week. And sometimes we see these stocks which have been sold previously, when red weeks hit, they actually go up. There's a few stocks that go up during red weeks. Usually tends to be those who is oversold, as the investors try to find a scoop, something to get an upside in. I think Excel might just be that one. So the game, try hopefully to get in around 18. Hard to say if I'll be able to get that low. Could be 1830, I don't know yet. See if we can push upwards to 1950 on a very good strike. It could be all the way up to 20, too early to say, but I don't expect it will be that huge money maker. But 5% is 5%, and I love any day to bank 5%. So trading tips of the week. I remain positive to Okuggen. I think there is a hot shot, so we keep it from last week. And Excel will be the stock I'll get into this morning. And next week you will know. Just tune in. You will know how did I do. Are I able to keep the winning strike for my tips, or will I bank a loss on this and Okuggen? So hard to say. And then it's the final part of the podcast is, of course, the high risk portfolio. And for those who follow me, I slowly been reducing and getting rid of this high risk portfolio. As I told you over and over again, I see market weakens and I don't want high exposure. And right now I am down to 32% exposure into the market. Few months ago I was 50. Before that, long before that, I was up at 70, 80, 90%. Now it's down to 30%. I want to have the money in the bank waiting for good buying opportunity. I see less and less of these very good buying opportunities, so I'd rather be happy with all the gains I've had. And if market turns red, which I believe, I hope I can do what I've done in all major big market crashes, makes good money being steady, where I will buy on the third red day and sell on the first green day. That's been a strategy which was used in 2008 and 2000 and a few other times when we had bad markets. So what about the portfolio? Well, diffusion is still there, but it's turned into a bad trade at 43 cents right now. NEO flirting around 43, ending the week at 42.60, still remains in the portfolio. I believe that's the future. That's where they will put the trillions of dollars trying to electrify United States, for instance. Comes to all Europe as well. And I think that NEO has a huge potential in this market and should push upwards. It will, of course, swing with the market, but that there is an upside, it still remains. Petrogeo Services, as I said, I believe it should push upwards. And last week it was 10% up, ending the week at 339. Not sure it will be the best week of Petrogeo Service this week. We will see, but in my opinion, it's undervalued and should just continue upwards. Arbutus didn't have any change, 1 cent or something this week, ending at 347, so relatively unchanged. So these are the stocks, and I will slowly get out of these positions. I will not buy into new. I have high risk portfolio. I have a few what I will call medium portfolios. I have an oil portfolio and of course a low risk portfolio. And in these, I keep a bit higher weight. Maybe we will see when I finally close that portfolio that I will open a new one, which you can follow and see what trades I do. Quick recap, Autos was sold 94% profit, XPEV 7% profit, Zoom 62% profit, Ur Energy 95% profit, Okogen 96% profit, and hopefully we will do a few more huge greens before that portfolio is finally closed. And that's it. I hope you will have a very good week. I hope the markets, despite believing they will be red, I hope they will be green, of course. And that you will be able to put some good money into your bank account or your trading account to keep it growing. Buy anything else, try to enjoy. There is more to stock trading than there is more to life than just stock trading, as we used to say. We will end with the usual quote: reduce your losses, use stop loss. It's a good thing. And use trailing stop loss when you are in good gains. Just follow the stocks upwards as they go and get out as close to the top as possible. We'll speak in a week. Bye.